With a combination of unique and often challenging mental abilities, there's something eerie when it comes to the INFJ personality type struggling with mental or personality disorders. A rare yet possible example of this would be an INFJ with borderline personality disorder. So, what exactly would that look like, and how would their traits differ from your average INFJ? Welcome back, psychos. Before we get into it, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, as well as to click the post notification bell so you never miss a video. Alright, let's get right into it, starting with number 1. Often feeling dumb and empty. So, what exactly is borderline personality disorder in the first place? Well, according to the National Institutes of Health, borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD, is a mental illness that severely impacts a person's ability to manage their emotions. This loss of emotional control can increase impulsivity, affect how a person feels about themselves, and negatively impact their relationships with others. One of the widely experienced and reported traits of this disorder is the feeling of self-lack and the inability to fill an internal void. When it comes to the borderline INFJ, this is unfortunately still the case. While every INFJ goes through their own experiences of loneliness, feeling misunderstood, and wanting to self-isolate, the BPD INFJ tends to struggle with these experiences far more intensely and more often. In fact, while the INFJ may have occasional bouts of these struggles, someone with this personality type in combination with borderline personality disorder is lucky when they have temporary relief from these continual thoughts. Like an itch they can't scratch, a void they can't fill, and a looming sense of doom, some form of depression is usually inevitable. Number 2. Being extremely clingy. Speaking of that void, another notorious trait of borderline personality disorder lies within clinging onto things and people that ease their emptiness temporarily. For the INFJ with BPD, their usual independent and free-spirited selves can become fogged with their desperation to cling onto certain friends, partners, and family members. Despite longing for their freedom, the borderline INFJ can't help but to grip these connections in an attempt to feel less alone. They want to feel worthy of love and attention, so by keeping someone extremely close, they experience a sense of temporary relief, despite the unhealthy tactics they take to keep it that way. The most difficult aspect of this habit is that it causes them to overlook the amount of toxicity that is present in these relationships. To the INFJ with BPD, door slams are rarely the case because nothing is worse than the feelings that would emerge should they lose their favorite person. And even if that individual decides to eventually pull the plug on the connection for their own mental and emotional sanity, the INFJ under the influence of BPD thoughts will successfully manipulate their way back into the connection, bringing us to the next point. Number 3. The intuition and extroverted feeling is used for manipulation. Emotional manipulation is one of, if not the most challenging aspects of dealing with someone with borderline personality disorder. However, with evil genius level mind games and their ability to convincingly reframe any situation, an INFJ with BPD naturally uses their understanding of the human mind to their advantage, utilizing their ability to pick up on the slightest changes to mood and feelings. The borderline INFJ is always a few steps ahead of their opponent. With the mix between genuine empathy and their need to take the blame off themselves, being in a connection with a borderline INFJ is an intense Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation, with the majority of their downfalls being an unintentional cry for help. This borderline personality type is notorious for lashing out and then immediately playing nice guy. Like a flick of a switch, their demeanor can go from blame to apology, self-confidence to self-deprecation, motivation to depression. Before being given the chance to process what's going on, the person witnessing an INFJ BPD mood switch is caught by surprise at their new attitude. Number 4. They're extremely self-aware of their shortcomings. For the average person struggling with any form of borderline personality disorder, It's said that one of the most noticeable difficulties they have is related to their inability to see where they went wrong. They have a habit of turning the other way when it comes to taking accountability due to their emotional immaturity. However, for the INFJ, who is known for their self-awareness, especially when it comes to their weaknesses, their social and relational challenges are very apparent. While most people with BPD prefer to play a victim role, a borderline personality disorder INFJ can see exactly where they went wrong. While this can save them from some difficulties that come with having this personality disorder, the awareness can actually make the experience much worse. Not only does it cause the INFJ's innate self-critical mindset to increase tenfold, but as time goes on, they remain unable to learn from their lessons, a crucial process in the INFJ's overall maturity. Number 5. Pointing the blame only hurts them in the process. With a natural habit of analyzing where they themselves went wrong, the borderline INFJ has a hard time pointing the finger. A classic BPD sign. Shifting the blame on others is actually known to be a form of self-protection against feelings of unworthiness. Despite possibly realizing where they went wrong within a situation, most people with borderline personality disorder tend to nitpick conversations, interactions, and past experiences to find arguments to back up their case. To save themselves from the overwhelming guilt and self-deprecation, they try to convince themselves and others that their doings weren't the cause of the upheaval. For the BPD INFJ, however, this process makes it all the more challenging because of their extroverted feeling function, which instantly absorbs the feelings of others. This habit of shifting the blame always comes to bite them in the butt later down the line. INFJs are usually great at taking accountability, so accusing others inevitably triggers the guilt, shame, and self-deprecation that they were attempting to avoid in the first place. Number 6. They can experience sudden bouts of intense anger. Cool as a cucumber, it's hard to believe that anyone with this personality type can be affected with something to the point of taking this trait away from them. However, for the borderline INFJ, it's often what happens. With the inability to self-regulate their emotional equilibrium, the INFJ who suffers from borderline personality disorder can feel completely out of control of their feelings. In fact, experiencing the influx of their own emotions can be challenging in itself. However, with the ability to pick up on the feelings of others, the BPD INFJ can be deeply affected by the emotional output of others. Whether it's someone expressing their own anger towards an INFJ, or they simply feel an energy drop in the room, hot and powerful anger can bubble up in the matter of minutes. And once they're there, it can feel nearly impossible to cool themselves down. Number 7. Relationships become all the more difficult. For the average INFJ, making new friends and settling for romantic relationships are no walk in the park. However, with BPD added to the mix, they become nearly impossible. Well, actually, because of their heightened need for relying on another person for satisfaction and emotional stability, the search for connection is actually much more apparent for borderline INFJs. Nevertheless, the quantity of connections is greatly impacted by the toxic quality of the connection. While the average INFJ is looking for someone they can share a genuine loving connection with, the BPD INFJ's intentions are much more personal. It's much more difficult for them to be on their own due to the constant downward spirals they experience. Their mood swings, angry outbursts, noticeable abandonment issues, and impulsive behaviors ultimately leave their loved ones feeling helpless, off-kilter, and even emotionally abused. This is what makes professional help so important for BPD sufferers of any personality type. And lastly, number 8. The misconceptions hurt them beyond repair. With the negative connotation attached to borderline personality disorder, it's fair to say that any INFJ who would be diagnosed with this mental challenge would feel extremely hurt. Deep down, all INFJs have an empathy that radiates far beyond any mental, emotional, and personality disorder. The BPD INFJ is far from evil and is instead deeply suffering due to the mental haze of negativity, low self-worth, and sadness that affects their day-to-day lives. The average INFJ, with all of their challenges, has no idea what it would be like to struggle with something that makes the good parts of their personality not as noticeable or powerful. Being an INFJ can be tough, but being a borderline INFJ can feel unbearable. Well, psychos, that's it for today. So, do you think an INFJ with BPD noticeably differs from the average INFJ? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave us a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video.